Hi, I'm Margaret Thompson, founder of Richmond Family Magazine, and I am here today with registered dietitian Sonia Islam as part of our Facebook Live for Family series with Children's Hospital of Richmond at VCU. Hello.
Hello.
Today we are going to talk about everyone's favorite, or least favorite, subject, family meals. It's a painful one sometimes, I'm telling you.
Can be.
Sonia has some creative, healthy, and budget-friendly tips and meal ideas for families on the go. So post your questions below in the comments section and we will answer them live during this interview. So let's have those questions coming in. Sonia, before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you became a dietitian.
Okay. Well, probably anyone that's known me for more than 5 seconds knows that I love food and cooking. Okay, so this is a perfect fit because I get to think about food all day.
Nice.
But I love talking about it with people and families. That being said, I know that for a lot of people, food is something that's kind of stressful. Getting meals on the table can be tough, and I find myself with those constraints all the time too, you know, like rushing in and out, having a tough time with juggling schedules. So, so I love that this is a job where you can get kind of to the problem solving, you know, and creativity with coming up with healthy and delicious ideas for food.
That's great. And what do you all do here at the Healthy Lifestyle Center?
I love working here. So we have a multidisciplinary team here. So in addition to dietitians, we have an endocrinology team, so doctors and nurse practitioners. We have exercise physiologists, group and individual classes. I love hearing people working out in the gym next door. We have health psychologists that help making, you know, changes about food. It can be tough, and so you know, they help with that process of how to make healthy habits last for a lifetime.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yes.
Let's talk about family meals. Why are they so important?
Well, you know, a lot of times it's about getting nourishing food into the body, but there's also a nourishment in terms of social connection. With the way that schedules go with families these days, it can really be tough to find time to connect with each other, right?
Oh, amen, yes.
Yes. So sometimes having dedicated time for family meals, it's nourishing for the bodies, but it's also nourishing for kids' minds and helps them with developing their social skills in addition to physically getting good nourishment for growth.
And how can planning ahead help families, you know, with this goal?
Well, a lot of times healthy meals, it's not magic, right? It doesn't happen automatically or fall in our laps.
Oh, I wish it did.
If you had 3 wishes.
Yeah, that'd be all for you.
And so the planning part, it helps with the stress for adults. A lot of times it can be stressful thinking about the amount of time that you have, how many mouths you have to feed, when people are going to be where. And so the planning process, a lot of times in appointments with people, I have people pull out calendars and say, hey, who's going to be where, when, you know, and taking that into account with the meal planning part. For kids, it can help with the stress because it takes away that whole last minute negotiations around food. You know, when they're involved with the planning process especially, maybe they'll be looking forward to the homemade meals instead of, you know, fighting about, you know, ordering pizza on a night where you weren't expecting it. Or when you're planning in times where you're going out, hey, they might not be so argumentative about it, you know, on a daily basis.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And how can planning ahead help families save money?
Well, we've all had that experience, right, where we find some mystery produce bag that's full of slime, right? You know, what was it at some point?
Never.
Well, I definitely have. So this is where planning what you're doing with your food, it means that it doesn't get wasted, right? So a lot of times what I like to tell families is to have an inventory of the food that they have. But to have a special area for the stuff that has to be used up sooner rather than later. And so that means that instead of it being the slime in your fridge in a couple of days, that it's actually delicious food that's on your table to eat.
See, raspberries. I don't know how anyone ever makes a raspberry before they go in. It's like they mold in the car.
Yeah.
No offense to the raspberry industry, but it's tough to keep.
And a lot of times I say with the meal planning, what you can do is when you do your grocery shopping and that feeds into your meal planning, the stuff that's more delicate, like maybe some fancy salad greens or something, you plan to use those earlier in the week. Stuff that's a little bit sturdier, so like some cabbage or a couple of carrots, save those as that emergency reserve for later, or plan it so that, it's something that you can count on for a different time, like right before you have to replenish supplies at the grocery store.
Right, that's a great idea. Now, how can parents help or involve kids in planning the meals?
So kids, when you involve them in the meal planning process, some of them will have different levels of engagement, right? But one thing that kids always appreciate is being asked for their input, right? So I don't know if you've had experience with this, but I'm sure that when you put dinner on the table, sometimes you get a commentary, right? And so if they had some input in the process, sometimes the commentary might turn positive more often than negative from time to time. When kids have input, even in the grocery shopping process, when it ends up on the table, sometimes they feel pride in that and excitement.
Absolutely,
yes.
Well, we also found we watch sometimes the cooking shows, the family cooking shows,
right.
And right away they're inspired. They're just right into the kitchen. We want to make dessert or we want to make dinner. So once they see kids cooking on TV and doing it well, that's been really fun for them.
I know, and that's the thing is, like, even little ones, they can be involved. The other day I was with my 2-year-old nephew, and he spent like 20 minutes washing sugar snap peas. He was totally enthralled in the process. So it can start super early. Older kids, maybe you'll get some relief, with the meal planning. They can actually step in and do a lot with the cooking process, planning, all of that. So
I can't wait. And it's neat to see, what the younger kids especially, but it's even taught me, they'd say, does a kiwi grow on a tree or is it a plant? And then we can go and kind of turn it into a little bit of research and look at what the plants, are like. So that's kind of fun too.
So kiwi was
kiwi, yes. Yeah. My son is now a fan of kiwi, but just anything. Is it a tree? Is it a plant? Is it a bush? And sometimes I don't know the answers, so we'll just go look it up together.
That's so cool. Yeah, kids' minds are curious and pliable, and food is a great way for them to get all of their senses involved and their curiosity piqued.
Definitely. So, as we were saying, family meals are a great opportunity to get some quality time in. Do you have any tips of making this time fun?
Absolutely. So one thing that can be really awesome is for family time to be a time for conversation. So that might mean turning screens off, and being involved in finding out on a day-to-day basis how things are going, with each other. So a lot of times families, if it's a new process for them, they might have some kind of silly game like, drawing from a pile of questions on a card. Everybody puts it in a fishbowl or something, and if you pick the little one's question, of course they're going to be super excited to hear everyone's answer to it.
That's a great idea.
A lot of times I know that families are kind of running in and out on different schedules, and so one thing that can help with everyone staying connected, you have this experience.
I hear it all the time from so many busy moms and dads. They just say that, it's so hard to sit down and have a quality meal together because one has soccer and one has chorus, and it's just so much taxi driving around, and unfortunately it happens around mealtime. So
it's taxi driving. I've heard that the kitchen is like a train station with people coming in and out. So one thing that I love that a family did is they had a crock pot, right, with a slow cooker with the meal that everyone was eating that night there, but there was a dry erase board with a question on there, what was the most interesting thing that you learned today, or what made you laugh the hardest today?
That's a great idea.
And that meant that some people, they wrote their answers on the board beforehand, so even if someone was eating later, they still got to hear something that happened to a sibling or a parent, earlier in the day.
Such a good idea.
Yeah, okay.
Great, let's do it. You have a Meals Made Easy mantra. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think that a lot of times a formula can help people with adapting meals to fit their own needs. So usually what I look for a healthy, nourishing meal is to make sure that there's some form of lean protein involved in it, making sure that there's some source of fiber that's involved in the meal, ideally coming from a fruit or a vegetable.
Okay.
And then there can be a third food group that's involved, so maybe some low-fat dairy or a whole grain that's incorporated in the process. So the thing with this formula is that it's pretty flexible, but it does prioritize some things that are nutritious for growing bodies and that help adults that need energy and sustenance through their busy lives as well. So even though there are some of those core principles that are there, I love, again, because I love food, the idea of making sure that things have flavor in them.
Yes.
So in terms of adding flavor, sometimes it's the cooking technique, you know, so if you have the oven on, make sure that while you're baking chicken that you might throw in some cauliflower to roast. If you want to add flavor kind of after the process, so you have some leftover cooked greens, come up with a sesame dressing or like something that adds some flavor that might bring some new life or vitality to something that might seem like a plain Jane leftover.
It's a great idea, and it's making my stomach growl. And it's, you know, sometimes it is easier to make a healthy, simple meal than, you know, a big complicated casserole with lots of fatty sour creams and cream cheeses in it. And sometimes we'll just grill some chicken and have some green beans and corn on the cob and sliced tomato, and I'm like, oh, well, that wasn't hard at all.
That
and
sounds
look how healthy it
amazing.
is, you know.
Yeah.
But then, you know, when you grow up with your mashed potatoes, you know, I feel like I grew up with the meat and the starch and the vegetable, and I'm trying to replace that starch with something a little healthier, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing is a lot of times for families, if that is a cornerstone of their meal, then maybe make enough so that it's enough for one serving. But the stuff that might be more nutritious or that you might want the kids to eat more of, make sure that there's leftovers that can be planned later for use later on. So that grilled chicken could go beautifully in a taco the next day or sliced up on top of a salad. So, gosh, your meal is making me hungry too.
I know. I have a cookbook called Make It Once, Eat It Twice. I've got to find that cookbook because that was what it was.
Yes.
It was the main one, and then the what to do with the leftovers. And that brings us right into what are some other fun ideas for dinners so that things don't get so boring.
Yes.
I know that we kind of get into our ruts. It's like taco night again and spaghetti night and pizza night. So do you have some tips for that?
Absolutely. Well, I love when people explore different sites and come, like, you know, there's a lot of creative ideas that are out there. Some of my favorite places to look for recipes is a site called skinnytaste.com. I don't care very much for the name of it, you know, but it does have lots of great ideas for how to incorporate lean proteins with fiber-rich vegetables and fruits. On Advancing Children's Health, the Children's Hospital blog, we actually have some great recipes that are going up tomorrow. So make sure to tune in. So things like whole grain veggie pizza, harvest chicken salad that has celery and apples and grapes in it. So
the kids eat chicken salad with grapes in it?
I have actually witnessed it myself, and it is amazing. So they like that little top of sweetness. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
But a lot of times it can be, hey, you know, like we're gonna do chicken again, you know. But when the kids are involved in the planning process, it might be, even if it's just a small tweak on something that's like the ordinary thing, they can become exponentially excited.
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Or fish, you know, especially introducing fish, I feel like sometimes can be a little tricky.
Yeah.
But it's such a good source of protein, right?
Absolutely. And so a lot of times the format that you're eating in could also be changed up as well. So if you are normally doing, or if you might be thinking about like eating at the table altogether, you know what? If that table is covered with bills and things that, you know, are taking homework and everything all spread out, you know what, just clear out some space in the middle of the floor, spread out a blanket, and make it a picnic for the night.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
If you are running short on time and, you know, that chicken is not thawed out, make breakfast for dinner, you know.
Oh, that's such a go-to, breakfast.
Yes.
Because then you get your protein from the eggs, right?
Absolutely.
And then, you know, some whole wheat toast with that and a little...
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Lean protein and fiber.
It's a terrible time of day to do this. I'm starving. My stomach is growling. All right, let's talk about grocery shopping. Do you have any tips for families before they hit the store?
Absolutely. So one of the first things to do is to make sure that you don't go hungry, right? And so
don't go on the way home.
And sometimes that can be a little bit tough, but a lot of times that leads more to that impulse shopping. If your kids are hungry, they're going to be pulling 5 different aisles of stuff into the cart all at once.
Don't take the kids shopping. Although it sometimes is fun. You know, they like to go sometimes,
Sure,
really.
absolutely.
They like to be involved, like you said, and they like to help make the choices. But, yeah, sometimes it does.
Yeah, and so, you know
Have
what?
you bringing home things that you didn't
You know what? If kids are going grocery shopping with you, you know, they can be distracted while they're in the aisles with games like I Spy, you know, or being tasked with checking things off of the grocery list, you know, having something purposeful, you know, towards in the middle of the trip. One thing to do while you're still at home, grab those reusable grocery bags, and also make sure that you inventory what's in your home already, because that can make sure that you don't end up with twice as much perishable stuff that's going to go bad, twice as quickly in the fridge.
Right. So having everything you need for the recipe except the eggs.
Exactly, right. So a lot of times in the meal planning process, that's a really great time to make that grocery list. Keeping, again, that dry erase board on the fridge, means that people can be adding things as they finish the last of the milk, or whatever else.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And there's so many apps now for that, and
Absolutely.
a million ways to add grocery lists. So tell us here about that. Did you have something to add? Go ahead.
No, I mean, a lot of times the way that I organize the list is by the aisles of the grocery store, so it can help with making the time in the store more efficient. Unless
that's
you
a
love
good idea.
wandering the aisles. I happen to, but I
I
know
don't mind
that's
it
not.
either. I haven't really gotten into the online grocery shopping because I kind of don't mind going to the store and seeing and touching and feeling the stuff. But I don't know. I think once I started online grocery shopping, I might get a little hooked on that. There's something to be said from being able to do it from your couch.
Absolutely, and you're bringing up a really great thing. There's a lot of services that are helping with making grocery shopping a lot more efficient, a lot easier. You can price out things ahead of time too, and so that can really help with people that are trying to stay on a budget while they're still trying to be healthier as well.
And I would guess the online shopping would take away the impulse purchases.
Probably.
Pick up at the curb. You can't grab the extra pack of gum at the register. So you have pros and cons. Now, how does the Healthy Lifestyle Center help families who are concerned about weight and nutrition?
One of the things that I love about our center is that it really focuses on healthy lifestyles. And so I love that when patients come here, that we focus a lot on what's important to them, asking if they wanted to change their eating habits, what would they want to be different about their life. So for some people it's that they want to change their weight, but I love hearing kids talking about how they want their dancers, they want to have more energy for their dance rehearsals, or that they have a little brother or sister that they really want to run after and keep up with, or
I want that.
that they're a mad scientist in the making and they want to make sure that they have the brain power to do all of their equations and experiments. So so I love working here because we focus on healthy lifestyles and finding out where there's an intersection between healthier eating, being more physically active, and being proactive about health, plus filling hopes and dreams for all of these little minds that come through our doors.
You have the best job ever.
It is. I love my job.
Great, Jen. That's great. Well, I think that's all we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us live. If you are watching this video after the live event, feel free to leave questions in the comments and we will post a response. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to talk today.
Let's go eat.
Yes.